It started the way many Halloween stories do, in daylight, with laughter, noise, and something a little too old to belong. Emma and her two roommates, Lindsay and Carla, were prowling through the Saturday flea market on the edge of town. The stalls were full of costumes, fake cobwebs, and pumpkin-spiced everything. Emma was hunting for something different, not another rubber witch mask or cheap vampire cape. That's when she saw the booth. It was set apart, cloth canopy faded the yellow-gray of nicotine and age. The man behind the table looked like he belonged to a different decade. No sign, no price tags, just a few old porcelain masks, the kind that seemed to blink if you stared long enough. One of them drew her in. Pale ivory, lips frozen in an ambiguous smile, eye holes narrow and elegant. "How much for the mask?" she asked. The man smiled, or maybe twitched. "It's not mine anymore, but it's waiting to be worn. Take it if it fits." When she reached for her wallet, he raised a withered hand. "Don't pay. Masks like that choose." Emma laughed awkwardly, accepted it anyway, and told herself he was just being theatrical. It was Halloween season after all. That night, she left it on her dresser. She didn't notice the faint scent of dust and static clutching at the air around it. The next evening, Lindsay's house was bright with orange lights, fake gravestones on the lawn, skeletons clanking against the porch rail. Dozens of 20-somethings crowded inside, laughing under fluorescent spider webs. Emma showed up late, mask in a paper bag. "You guys are gonna love this. Creepy as hell, but classy." When she pulled it out, the chatter quieted for a second. Everyone staring. The mask looked perfect. Too perfect. Its skin tone nearly matched hers. The lips moved ever so slightly when she spoke. "Holy crap," someone whispered. "It looks real." In the mirror by the hallway, Emma admired herself. The mask adhered so seamlessly that it might as well have grown there. Then Lindsay gasped, "Wait, how do you even get that off?" Emma tugged lightly at the edge near her jawline. Nothing moved. The material didn't feel like latex anymore, more like skin warmed by breath. "Okay, joke's over," she said. She went to the bathroom, locked the door, and tried harder. The mask flexed with her muscles, but there was no seam, no line, just smooth continuity. Her phone buzzed with messages from outside, people laughing, calling her method actress. She stared at her reflection until someone pounded on the door, drunk and impatient. When she came out, she didn't feel drunk, but her head buzzed and her voice sounded muffled inside the mask. Air felt thicker. At midnight, she left the party without saying goodbye. At home, the house was silent. She went straight to the bathroom, turned on bright light, and examined her face. "Okay," she told her reflection, forcing a smile. "Weird adhesive or something. I'll wash it off." She grabbed soap, hot water, cleansing oil. She even tried nail polish remover on one corner, ignoring the sting, but all she wiped away were traces of her own skin's oil. Then the mask blinked. She froze. She felt her eyelids move, but there was a fraction of delay, like a reflection that didn't quite sync. "Just tired," she whispered, yet her mouth didn't open at the same time as the sound. Her phone vibrated. Carla texted, "Did you leave your mask here? I thought I saw it on the table just now." She stared at the screen. On her dresser, across the room, the paper bag she'd used at the market lay empty. That night, she dreamed of walking through hallways without doors. The walls were plastered with faces, smooth, colorless masks whispering softly. In each one a voice. "Take us off. Wear us next. We only exist when worn." She woke at 3:33 a.m., gasping, nails cutting into her palms. Her face was still not hers. The mask felt tighter, constricting as if it inhaled with her. In the dark, she swore she heard faint breathing beside her bed. Sunday afternoon, Lindsay came knocking. "Em, are you okay? You just ghosted last night." I cracked the door open a slit. "Yeah, not feeling great." "Can I see you?" "Maybe later." "Look, don't be weird. Everyone's freaking out. Just let me in for a minute." Emma hesitated, then opened the door. Lindsay's expression shifted instantly. Horror, then confusion. "Jesus, Em, is that still your mask?" "It won't come off." Her voice sounded hoarse, like spoken through another person. Lindsay reached a hand forward, but before touching, she flinched back. "It's warm, like real skin." "It's not a costume," she said quietly. "It's something else." By Monday, Emma was desperate. She skipped work and dug through online archives for anything about antique masks. Nothing resembling hers, until a forum thread popped up. The Mask of Samhain, late 19th century, origin disputed, said to belong to a traveling performer who vanished after his final show. Rumor: the mask adapts to whoever wears it, and once it fits, it becomes the wearer. When she logged back in later that night, the thread was gone. The next morning, her jaw hurt. Underneath the skin, she felt movement, like tiny muscles rearranging. When she looked in the mirror, her cheekbones were higher, nose thinner. Her phone camera didn't recognize her Face ID. She screamed, tried to claw at the skin, and watched blood bead not from the surface, but from within, as if her flesh was behind the mask now. That's when a knock came again. Not at the door. At the window.
It was the man from the flea market, standing motionless on the lawn. His head tilted slowly upward until he met her eyes through the glass. He raised a single finger to his lips. No wind moved his coat. No breath fogged the window. Then he smiled, or the cracks of his face did, and mouthed words she couldn't hear, but she read them clearly. "You fit." He turned and walked into the streetlight, dissolving in its orange glow. Over the next few hours, memory became slippery. Emma found herself humming tunes she didn't know, in a voice lower than her own. She saw photos on her phone, selfies, grinning at the party, but with slightly different eyes each time she swiped. She tried recording a video confession. On playback, her lips moved a full second behind her voice. She screamed. The reflection smiled a heartbeat later. And then the reflection spoke on its own. "Thank you. I was so tired of silence." The mirror fogged from inside the glass, a face pushing outward. Halloween night arrived a week later. Lindsay texted, "Going to another party. Miss you. Mask girl." No reply. Late that evening, doorbells rang up and down the street. Children shouted, "Trick or treat!" At house number 312, a woman opened the door slowly. She wore an incredibly lifelike mask. Subtle, porcelain pale, smiling kindly. Kids loved it. "Your costume's awesome," they said. She dropped candy into their bags and closed the door softly. Inside, she walked to the hall mirror. The reflection didn't move quite right. "Your turn to rest," it whispered. And in the faint reflection of the glass, for just a moment, another face, Emma's, pressed desperately outward before sinking back into blankness. The porch light flickered. Outside, laughter echoed, thick with autumn leaves. Upstairs, the paper bag from the flea market rustled on the dresser. Another mask, empty now, waited patiently for the next Halloween.
Every October, the little Illinois town of Meriton went completely orange. Every porch held at least 2 jack-o'-lanterns, sometimes 10. There were competitions for spookiest grin, most artistic carving, even best candle scent. People laughed about it, but the contests mattered here. Winning meant a photo in the Meriton Weekly and a ribbon from the mayor himself. Harold York, age 62, had never won anything. Not the chili cook-off, not the bake sale, nothing. This year, he told himself, trimming dead vines in his garden, this year, it's my turn. The only problem? His pumpkins looked pathetic. Either too small, too mushy, or caved in on one side like old bread. Then he heard about Reggie's supply barn, past the grain silos. They've got a special batch, said his neighbor, Dot. Imported seed from somewhere down south. Folks say the flesh is hard as wood, perfect for carving. Later, she added under her breath, looks like meat more than fruit, but who cares? He drove there on a gray afternoon. The place smelled of wet straw and vinegar. Reggie himself wasn't around. A kid, barely 20, sat half asleep behind the counter. I'm looking for them new pumpkins, Harold said. The kid pointed to the far stall. Bottom row. They didn't even look right. The color wasn't orange, but deep, murky red. The stems were black-green like veins. When he touched one, the surface was warm, faintly pulsing. He laughed nervously. You're battery-powered or what? Back in his truck, he stuffed it in the back seat. Driving home, the truck smelled like raw meat. At midnight, Harold set the pumpkin on the kitchen table. Toughest rind in the Midwest, huh? We'll see. He got his knife, sterilized it like a surgeon, and tried a small incision. The blade barely went in. But when it did, a thin hiss escaped, like air leaving lungs. A scent of copper filled the room. He paused. Guess I nicked a pocket in there. Inside, the flesh wasn't orange, but dark and fibrous, marbled red and brown. He thought of muscle tissue. Something wet rolled out. Not a seed, more like an eye. He blinked. The light flickered, maybe he imagined it. Working fast, he carved deep, sweating. By 3 a.m., he'd finished a masterpiece. A snarling grin, intricate nose flares, realistic gum lines. It looked alive. When he lit it with a small candle, the expression changed. The smile widened by half an inch on its own. Trick candle, he muttered. Must have bent the wax. Then came the whisper, soft from the flame. More. More what? Harold blinked. The flame sputtered. More light. More heat. He turned off the kitchen lamp to make sure the sound wasn't wind or refrigeration hum. The whisper grew clear. Feed me light, Harold. He stumbled back, blowing out the candle. In darkness, the carving lines glowed faintly red, as if blood still moved beneath the skin. By next morning, he'd convinced himself it was stress. He had coffee, ignored the pumpkin, but Dot called from her driveway, cheerful as always. Heard you got one of those new breeds. He hesitated. Yeah, pretty solid flesh. Well, if you win, Harold, she grinned, maybe I'll just kill myself, save years of embarrassment. He laughed politely, though her voice carried something sharp behind the humor. Everyone in Meriton secretly wanted that ribbon. That evening, when he stepped outside, he saw Dot dragging a giant orange pumpkin onto her porch, almost as big as a washing machine. She caught him looking. Let the best carver win, she said. Her eyes were flat. He relit the candle inside his pumpkin, curious. The grin twitched. The whisper came immediately. She mocks you. What?
The woman next door. She doesn't deserve the light. I'm not hurting anybody over a contest. The light dimmed. You don't need to. Merely share warmth. He didn't know what that meant, but his chest tightened as if expecting orders from a boss. Outside his window, Dot's house glowed with gentle yellow light. He went to bed eventually, though he dreamed of thick vines crawling through soil, tasting for roots of lesser plants. Next morning, local headlines hit. Neighborhood tragedy. Local woman found dead among pumpkins. Harold almost dropped his coffee. The photo blurred in his shaking hands. Dot, smiling in summer, now dead. Natural causes, said the article. Suspected heart attack. He stepped onto his porch to escape the smell of his own fears, and froze. His pumpkin looked different again. The mouth was wider, teeth sharper, shaped exactly like Dot's smile. He stumbled back inside and poured a tall whiskey. At dusk, as street lights flicked on, the pumpkin's candle ignited itself. Flame burst from within, pure red. You won, the voice said. What did you mean her? You fed me light. Now others envy you. More light. No, no more. Then I take back the gift. Pain shot through his fingertips where he'd once cut to carve the mouth. Tiny lines opened, oozing dark sap. He screamed, blowing out the candle. The flame resisted, flaring brighter before finally dimming to smoke. He wrapped the pumpkin in a garbage bag, tossed it behind the shed. Out of sight, out of mind, though he didn't believe a word. Within hours, something knocked on his window. Light rain? No, a rhythmic thump. Thump, thump, soft and wet. He peeked outside. The garbage bag bulged and pulsed. From its open corner leaked a faint, steady glow. He ran back inside, locked the door, and downed more whiskey. In the dark, he thought he heard movement on the porch, the slow scrape of something being dragged. 2 days later was the annual pumpkin contest on Main Street. He hadn't planned to go, but the mayor's email confused him. Congratulations, Harold York, this year's grand prize winner. He blinked. But I didn't submit anything. Still, curiosity dragged him there. On the stage sat his pumpkin, or what looked like it. Only now it was enormous, the size of a beer keg, flesh glossy like varnished wood. Its grin was not his carving anymore. Dozens of overlapping mouths twisted together, smiling. Crowd murmurs filled the air. Where did he find that? Looks too real. The mayor patted Harold on the back nervously. You really outdid yourself, York. Things unsettlingly lifelike. Every flash from the cameras made its surface quake slightly, as if breathing. The longer people looked, the quieter they grew. When dusk fell, someone lit a candle inside. Firelight flickered behind the eyes, and a low hum rolled through the crowd like wind under a bridge. One by one, the other jack-o'-lanterns on the street dimmed out. Their flames vanished, absorbed. The glow seemed to gather inside Harold's pumpkin, swelling until every detail of its grin gleamed crimson. Then, the electrical grid popped. Streetlights died. In the split second of darkness before panic began, all anyone saw was that gargantuan grin burning brighter than the moon. The next morning, police tape ringed the square. No one could decide what the hell happened. Half the attendees were missing, including the mayor. News vans lined the road. Harold sat in his kitchen, trembling.
His hands were cold, nails dark red. On the table lay the mayor's ribbon, sticky with something that wasn't blood, but close enough. He stared out the back window at the empty patch where the pumpkin had been buried in garbage bags. Fresh soil now, but slightly moving as if worms worked overtime. By Halloween night, Meriton's streets were calm again. Kids in costumes roamed, parents chatted. They came to Harold's house, too. He'd stacked bowls of candy near the door, planning not to answer. Yet at exactly 9 p.m., someone knocked. "Trick or treat," voices chimed. He sighed, grabbed candy, opened the door. 3 kids stood there: pirate, princess, vampire. Behind them, on the lawn, he noticed a new pumpkin he hadn't placed. It was smaller, but identical in shape to his old one. When the porch light flickered, the child dressed as a vampire giggled. "Whoa, mister, your jack-o'-lantern looks like it's breathing." He followed their gaze. The mouth curved. "What? How?" "Feed me light," the whisper came again, from behind him this time. He turned toward the kitchen. Another pumpkin sat on the counter, twin grin glowing. Then another near the stairs. The air smelled of soil, metal, and candle smoke. His last thought, absurd and pitiful, was about the newspaper ribbon on his table, whether it would still be there after his house faded into the red hush that swept across town. Weeks later, a state investigation labeled Meriton's disaster as chemical plant leakage causing hallucinations. Reporters forgot, families moved away. The region grew overgrown with orange vines that budded out of the streets in spring. Every October since, locals claimed to see faint jack-o'-lantern-shaped glows rising from the ground after midnight, whispering in the wind, "More light." When they dig, they say the soil bleeds red. In the town of Harlow Creek, West Virginia, people didn't talk loudly about what happened on Halloween's past. They whispered. 3 knocks after midnight, they'd mutter at the diner, coffee steaming between their hands. "If you hear them on your door, don't move, don't breathe, wait till dawn." Every child knew the rule. You could knock on anyone's door twice for trick-or-treats, never 3 times. Twice meant candy. 3 invoked something older than the gospel that still hung in the church hall. Of course, no small-town superstition can survive a dare. That year, 4 high schoolers, Nate, Jenny, Cole, and Lacey, decided to hunt the legend. They filmed everything for their YouTube channel, Mountain Myths Exposed. Nate was the leader, cocky son of the local sheriff. Jenny, quiet and superstitious, didn't want to go, but didn't want to look scared either. "Guys, it's just some old coal miner story," Nate said, firing up the camera. "We go out, knock on a few doors after midnight, catch an old man yelling, boom, views." They chose the last house on Black Hollow Road, the one long abandoned, lost under vines since the mine explosion of 1973. By day, the place was merely ugly. By night, it looked awake. The windows reflected no moonlight, only their own flashlight beams. "Big whoop," Cole joked. "Let's get it over with." They reached the porch just before midnight. Jenny checked her phone, 11:58 p.m. "I'm serious, guys, we shouldn't." Nate raised his fist, smirking at the camera. 3, 2, knock, knock, knock. Each hit was damp, like wood wet from the inside. They laughed, nervously at first. Nothing happened. "See? No ghost miner, no devil, just an old legend." Then somewhere deep inside the house, behind the door, something knocked back, once.
Cole swore and backed off. Jenny started crying quietly. "That was an echo," Nate said too loudly. "Wood settling. Temperature drop." But the door handle turned. No one touched it. It simply rotated a half-inch, paused, clicked back. The air went sharp. On the recording, there's a strange glitch, 3 frames of static followed by what looks like a black hand pressing against the window pane. They didn't see it then, only later. They ran down the dirt path, tripping over roots. Nate screamed, "Keep filming!" But the camera caught only blur, trees, breath, cold fog. By dawn, none of them were home. The sheriff found their car by the old bridge, doors open, engine still humming. Inside lay Jenny's phone, camera app frozen on a frame of the house door, now open 3 inches wider than before. The next day, search teams combed the woods. They found only Lacey. She was sitting at the base of a sycamore, face blank, hands over her ears. When they touched her wrist, she whispered, "It knocked again," when the light came. The following week, the police accessed the upload queue from Jenny's phone. The footage, cleaned by forensic techs, ran 27 minutes. It shows the door, nobody standing there, just the door. At 12:01 a.m., you hear 3 faint knocks from inside the phone, not from external audio. The picture vibrates. At 12:04 a.m., a phrase murmured backwards can be translated to, "I never left the mine." The server copies deleted themselves after playback. Local preacher Samuel Briggs had heard variations of the story since boyhood. He claimed the 3 knocks began the night the Dalton mine exploded. 32 miners trapped, including his grandfather. They say rescue crews heard knocking for 2 days before abandoning efforts. They buried the mine entrance with concrete, said it was to prevent looters. The truth is, the knocking didn't stop, and it came from under the church hill.
When asked about the teens, he only said, "Halloween's the one night they can walk like the rest of us." At the next Halloween, most folks left town. But young families always move into cheap houses. The property on Black Hollow Road, the miner's house, was bought by a couple from Ohio, Evan and Laura Mercer, with their 8-year-old son, Toby. They didn't know the story, or ignored it, thinking it quaint. Decorations went up. Cotton webs, paper ghosts. Laura baked pies. Toby practiced jokes for trick-or-treat night. At 9 p.m., the last kids came and went. Evan fell asleep on the couch. By 11:30, the porch was dark, except for Toby's pumpkin lantern. Then, 3 knocks on the door. Laura thought maybe teenagers. She opened the door lightly. "Sorry, we're out of candy." No one there. Only cold mist. She stepped out, shivering. The pumpkin light went out. Behind her, the door closed itself. Inside, Toby sat up in bed. He heard the knocks again, softer now, from his closet door. Knock, knock, knock. He whispered, "Who is it?" Silence. Then from far away, a thin male voice, cracked like dry leaves. "Never ask that." Evan woke to smell of coal and wet earth. He stumbled to Toby's room. Empty. Closet open. Floor covered in black dust. He ran outside screaming. The lawn showed small, bare footprints trailing toward the hill where the old capped mine lay under concrete. At the sight, the padlock was shattered. The whole slab shifted slightly, as if the ground underneath were moving, breathing. A gap, barely an inch, exhaled air that reeked of old smoke and iron. Deep inside came a faint, hollow knock. Another. A third. They say the next day, construction crews sealed the mine again, poured twice as much concrete. Yet people swear, at night, if you walk past the church, you can hear 4 knocks now. 3 to summon, the 4th to answer. 2 months later, a trucker passing Harlow Creek picked up a hitchhiker near the turnpike. Dirty face, miner's helmet, coal dust crusted around his eyes. When the trucker joked, "You from the Halloween mine down there?" the man smiled too widely. "Still working on it. Got a shift after midnight." Then he vanished mid-sentence, leaving only soot handprints on the passenger seat, 3 on the upholstery, 1 on the dashboard. Now, every October, the sheriff posts a warning online, disguised as a festival reminder. For safety purposes, trick-or-treating ends at 11 p.m. Please refrain from unnecessary knocking after midnight. Locals obey. Outsiders laugh. But the few who break the rule, YouTubers, urban explorers, never post again. Some nights, power fails around 12:03. Each outage lasts exactly 73 seconds. Those who listen closely during the hush swear they can hear it under their houses. Knock, knock, knock. And then footsteps moving away, satisfied for another year. By late October, the city always smelled of smoke, sugar, and acrylic paint. Billboards screamed, "Halloween Parade, October 31st, downtown." Every bar offered themed cocktails. Every apartment window blinked fake candlelight. The celebration was so large that the mayor declared it an official civic holiday. Everyone joined, hundreds of thousands wearing latex faces, invisible behind makeup thick as frosting. For photojournalist Mara Kessler, it was an assignment she dreaded. Mara specialized in people. Faces told stories, she'd say. Wrinkles, smiles, cheap mascara, all of it. But after her sister disappeared during last year's Halloween parade, she nearly quit the paper. The police had found no evidence. Thousands of pictures, and yet not one showing the moment the sister vanished. A week later, though, Mara developed an old roll of film and found a frame she didn't remember taking. Her sister in the crowd, turning toward the camera, but the face entirely blank, smooth skin from chin to hairline. No Photoshop, no blur, just absence. Her editor, oblivious, handed her the same job again. Crowd shots, performers, confetti. Make it look fun. Don't zoom on drunks this time, okay? She smiled stiffly. Sure. The parade started Halloween evening at dusk, marching up 7th Avenue. Massive papier-mâché heads bobbed among skyscrapers. Giant balloons of cartoon ghosts floated under sodium streetlights. Drums thundered so loudly that she felt vibrations in her throat. Thousands of moving masks. Through the lens, she sometimes misfocused. Faces blurred lengthwise, lips where eyes should be. But the rest of the frame, perfectly crisp. Around 8 p.m., she spotted a child sitting alone on a manhole cover, holding a deflated balloon. "Hey, kiddo, you lost your parents?" No response. The girl wore a cloth mask, featureless white. As she crouched to help, the girl tilted her head. Through thin cotton, she saw nothing. No hint of a nose, mouth, or eyes beneath. When she blinked, the child was gone. Only the balloon bobbed slightly, though no wind blew. By midnight, Mara returned to the newsroom with hundreds of photos. The office was half empty. Most staff were partying. She uploaded the memory card. The program cataloged each shot, tagging each face automatically. But this time the software crashed halfway through, spitting out error messages.
No face data detected. 0 human subjects identified. She scrolled through. Every frame that should have shown people's faces was smooth, blank skin tone. Sometimes the outlines of masks, but no eyes, no mouths. Her heart rattled. She checked the raw files. Same thing. Outside the wide newsroom window, she saw the glowing river of the parade still moving north, crowds shimmering in orange light, endless. She locked up and headed down to the street. The parade had slowed. Thousands stood still, heads turned downward like sleepwalkers. A man bumped her shoulder. "Excuse," she began, then froze. His mouth was drawn on with marker. The skin underneath didn't move. When she gasped, he looked straight at her. The marker line smiled wider, despite the rest of the face remaining still. She ran. In the nearest cafe, lights were on, but nobody spoke. Patrons sat perfectly quiet, clutching paper cups. Their faces, smooth, no holes, no hair, no detail, just matte blankness. Behind the counter, someone whispered, "You came back late." She spun around. Nobody there. Only another reflection in the coffee machine. Her own face, half erased around the edges. Back home, she slammed every lock, poured whiskey, spread photos on the floor. Under magnifying glass, she noticed strange sequences. Same crowd intersection, same angle, but in each new shot, fewer details. Signs lost letters. Street lamps turned featureless white bulbs. Even cars smoothed out, license plates gone. The world itself seemed being edited. At one point, her own ID photo on her press badge had gone blank, her name tag reading simply M-. The door buzzed. Someone pressed the buzzer 3 times, long tones. "Who is it?" "You know us." A 100-voice whisper responded, every frequency at once. "Hurry, you'll miss the final march."
Mara grabbed her camera, stepped onto the street, because fear is sometimes just curiosity, starving to death. Broadway was now filled end to end with the faceless. Their masks shone under streetlights like polished bone. At the center, an enormous figure walked. Taller than traffic lights, its surface perfectly smooth. On its chest, thousands of faint thumbprints shone, as if 1,000,000 people had touched it, begging for something. The drumming resumed, deeper now, like subterranean thunder. Each time the drum beat hit, another person in the crowd froze, their features flattening completely. They didn't fall. They just joined. Faces erased, but bodies still dancing softly, stepping in rhythm. The tall figure stopped right in front of Mara. Up close, the air around it rippled with low sound, a heartbeat multiplied. A hollow voice emerged from somewhere you couldn't point to. "You hide behind lenses, behind the little rectangles of others' faces. Drop the glass and wear the peace we wear." The crowd echoed, murmuring, "Peace we wear, peace we wear." Mara raised her camera. For a second, she saw everyone clearly. Faces, tears, pupils, sweat. Then the camera blinked, shutter jammed, and all of them went faceless again. "You took my sister," she said. "We took no one. We gave her rest." The giant extended its hand. Its surface wasn't skin, but mirrored nothingness, a kind of negative space. "Join the rest, or keep seeing. Seeing hurts." She lifted the flash gun and fired directly into its surface. White light swallowed the street. The reflection bounced back impossibly bright, like a photo developing inside her skull. When vision returned, the parade was gone. Streets empty. Garbage bags fluttered in wind.
only confetti scattered and melted candles on the curb. Her camera lay cracked at her feet. She touched her face, trembling. Lips, nose, eyes, still there, but the skin felt thin, unfamiliar, like new film not yet processed. She stumbled home through silent blocks. On every corner, posters fluttered. City Halloween Parade, canceled due to weather, rescheduled next year. No mention of the 100,000 who had attended. Weeks later, Mara's expose ran on fringe blogs. Nobody mainstream believed her. She attached footage showing blank crowds, and commenters assumed elaborate CGI. Her paper quietly replaced her ID badge. Her editor stared puzzled. Odd error. Photo missing. We'll retake it. In the new picture, her eyes looked softer, almost blurred. The City Museum later displayed a recovered film roll from an unknown photographer, 36 frames of a Halloween parade that never officially happened. Visitors report a strange after-image effect. After leaving the gallery, they can't recall a single face they saw that day, not even their friends. Just white, empty ovals. Security cameras sometimes capture them walking through the lobby at closing time. Hundreds leaving the museum, though fewer entered, each shining faintly around the edges. Halloween returns, as it always does. The mayor insists the parade will go ahead for civic morale. Decorations rise. Costume shops sell out of featureless masks almost instantly. Nobody questions where the design came from. Mara watches from her high-rise window with lights off. Down below she sees the first marchers gathering, faces already smooth in the sodium glare, every step perfectly synchronized. Her phone buzzes with an airdrop request. facelessparade.movie. Accept? Without thinking, she presses yes. The screen flashes white. Her reflection in it shows half a face, half light. Outside, drums begin again, steady as a heartbeat, echoing through glass towers that swallow every scream and every name until the whole city wears uniform peace.